Stand up. Get the blood flowing. Oh, I know. Oh, my God. He's late. He's making us stand up. Who does this guy think he is? All right. We got the blood flowing. Okay. Remain standing if you or your parents were born outside of the United States. So if you or your parents were born in the U.S., you can sit down. If you or your parents were born outside of the United States, remain standing. You or your parents. So if you're first generation or second generation immigrant, remain standing. Say again? If one was born outside and one was born inside, then stand up. That still makes you second generation. So if you have one or more parents, you or one or more of your parents was born outside the U.S., then you're going to remain standing. Right? Everyone take a look around. Take a look around. All right, everybody back up. Everybody back up. Up, quick. Everybody up. If more than one language, even if you're not fluent, but if more than one language is spoken in your household, remain standing. If more than one language is spoken in your household, remain standing. Ebonics doesn't count. Ebonics doesn't count. Can't use that. Someone's like, what's Ebonics? You guys are young. All right, stand up, stand back up, stand back up. If when you're filling out some sort of an application or some sort of form, and it comes to race and ethnicity, and you have to check off a couple boxes, stand up. So if you're just checking off one box, you can sit down. If you're checking off multiple, remain standing. And if you're not sure, then you can sit down, I guess. All right, last one. Stand up. Everybody up. If you were affected on some level by what happened in South Carolina last week, stand up. The massacre in Charleston, South Carolina, did you guys hear about that? So if you, in any way, if you were affected emotionally, if you cared at all, remain standing. So take a look around, guys. Regardless of how different we are, regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of our households, regardless of what language we may have grown up speaking, something like that brings us all together. That's kind of interesting. All right, have a seat. So my name is Charles. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I attended the Roxbury Latin School in West Roxbury, which is a neighborhood in Boston. It's a small, private, all-boys school where my graduating class consisted of 45 seniors. So the group of guys that I went to school with, I started that school in 7th grade and went through to 12th grade. And I graduated essentially with the same guys that I started with. Very, very small school. I got to Roxbury Latin indirectly through a program called METCO. METCO is very similar to Stepping Stone, which I know that you all are very familiar with. That opened up a door for me. I grew up in Boston. Is anybody from Boston or have family in Boston? A couple of hands, all right. So I grew up in Dorchester. Dorchester is the largest neighborhood in Boston, actually one of the most diverse as it turns out too. It's gotten more diverse since I moved out. And growing up in Dorchester, knew my dad, have a very good relationship with my dad, but lived with my mom. Parents got divorced when I was very young. So growing up in Dorchester with a single mom, my brother and I, two young black boys running around the streets of Dorchester. You guys kind of know how this narrative goes. The statistics were set against us. My mother was able to get us both in strong academic programs that set us on the path that we find ourselves on today. Education makes more difference than just about anything that you can come in contact with through your lives. Education matters more than where you were born. Education matters more than what language you grew up speaking. Education matters more than how much money your family makes. If you can get access to strong quality education like everyone in this room does, that's going to set your trajectory. That's going to set your life path more than just about any other influence. I'm extremely passionate about education. You can ask my 12-year-old who goes to Two Rivers in East Hartford. It's a magnet school managed by CREC. Education is a big deal for us because we recognize no matter how we may fall short as parents, I don't do everything right, clearly by evidence of the fact that I was 20 minutes late this morning. But we work on and focus on a couple things. And education is a big deal. Education can't overcome everything. Education can't overcome someone's decision to act out of hate and fear and decide to take the lives of 9 people during a Bible study and a prayer meeting. Education can't overcome that. But what education can do is to help you put that in a framework, to help you put that in a place where we can learn from it and we can grow from it. Interestingly enough, on my way here, I was listening to NPR, National Public Radio, and as you get older and your tastes diversify, I'm going to encourage you to incorporate NPR into your rotation in addition to, what do you guys listen to, Hot 93.7? Do you guys even listen to the radio? No, what do we do, like SoundHound and SoundCloud? See, I'm showing it. I'm showing my age. What do I listen to? So Pandora subscribers, that kind of stuff. You guys like to be able to select what you want to listen to when you want to listen to. Well, I would encourage you to throw NPR into your podcast rotation if you listen to that, or every once in a while ask your parents to turn it on in the car. Great information. On my way over, I'm listening to a story of a writer, and this woman was actually expressing the point of view that from her perspective, there are some crimes and some individuals that aren't worth forgiving. And she actually put this particular act into that framework, that she didn't feel like the story should just be about forgiving him when there was a lot of media coverage over the fact that some family members of the victims were so willing to forgive this individual so quickly after the crime. And you know, she had some well thought out opinions. I say all that to say this, that education gives you the power to think through things, to process things, to come to a place where you can appreciate even something that could be described as unspeakable, something that could be described as despicable. Education helps you to work through that. Education connects us. Education binds us. And ultimately, it's education that's going to give you the keys to make this world what you want it to be. I'm sure that you've heard at some point by now that you can be whatever you want to be. And the reality of the fact is that, you know, there really isn't anything beyond your imagination, beyond your ability to think big, to dream big, and to achieve it. How many people know what the Jetsons is? You guys heard of that cartoon, the Jetsons? So the Jetsons was a cartoon that was developed, I'm going to take a stab and say the 60s or 70s. And do you know when the Jetsons were supposed to take place? This year. So when the Jetsons were produced back then, it was taking place in the year 2015. Do you guys remember some of the things about the Jetsons? What do you remember about the Jetsons in the back? I see you real excited.
Yes, that was one of my favorite cartoons growing up. I remember that we were driving around in spaceships. Like our cars were, they were portable, like in-flight cars.
Yep.
We had access to robot housekeepers.
Yep.
Rosie was my favorite character. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. My favorite aspect of the Jetsons, I don't know how close we are to getting there, my favorite aspect was the car that turned into the briefcase. I could deal with that, because I spent 5 minutes trying to park on my old campus and they've changed things around and I may get a ticket before we leave here anyway. But that, so The Jetsons are supposed to take place today, and if you got to look at the Jetsons and look at our thoughts back then as to where we would be today, clearly there are some things that we've missed. But think about, and for some of you, this you won't all the way be able to appreciate it, but kind of take my word for it. When I was growing up, and this is not that long ago, not that old, daggone it. When I was growing up, when I was the age of some of you in this room, personal computers were certainly available, but they weren't an everyday thing. They weren't in everyone's household. There certainly wasn't anything like a laptop. And when I think about the fact that what I carry around in the inside pocket of my jacket has more computing power than the huge terminal and tower that I grew up using in my house, gives me an idea of how far along we've come and where we can go. And education does that, guys. Education can do that. Education destroys borders. Education brings hope. Education can heal hurts. Education can kill hate. It can. It's not an ideal, it's something that can be achieved. How many of you know Nelson Mandela? So Nelson Mandela passed away last year. And beyond being imprisoned and beyond some of the radical elements of his past, it was Nelson Mandela's words and his stance and his education that brought about the end of apartheid. Education can do that in a way that not much else can. And so I want to encourage you to invest wholeheartedly in your education. Push yourselves, push your teachers. Jerry's a brilliant man. Country is all get out. Talked a whole lot of junk, smoked cigarettes, cursed in class, but Jerry Watts was brilliant. Jerry used to say, if you want to keep something from a Trinity student, just put it in a book. Because Trinity students, at least at the time when I was going there, we were infamous for working hard and playing hard. And found different ways to work around our reading. The reality is, all information is not just locked in books anymore. With your phones, with your tablets, with your laptops, you guys have access to more information in 20 minutes than I had access to in 2 hours working through the Dewey Decimal System in the library. You guys remember that? You know, some folks around the room remember that. Going through index cards, trying to find books by decimal codes. The world is yours, guys. It is. Every opportunity is available to you. There's no barrier that you can't overcome. There really isn't. And there may be a remnant of an old way of thinking out there that's trying to hold on to the little bit of perceived power that it has, but it's just perception. It's not reality. The reality is that you all can do anything. You can accomplish great things. And your education is going to be the key to unlock those doors. Do you have any questions for me?